Once upon a time, in a small town, lived a young girl named Maya. Maya was gentle, with bright eyes and a curious smile. She lived with her parents in an old house near the woods, and everyone in town thought she was a little strange but very sweet. Maya was the only child, and her parents loved her dearly. As Maya grew up, she began to say strange things. One day, at dinner, she looked at her parents with a soft smile and said, "I met someone. He's very nice, and I love him." Her parents chuckled, thinking she was imagining things. Maya was only 17, and she was always lost in her own world. Her mother gently asked, "Oh, really, Maya? And who is this boy?" Maya looked out the window, as if she could see someone standing in the shadows. "His name is Liam. He lives out there near the forest." Her parents exchanged puzzled glances. They had never heard of anyone named Liam in the area, and Maya hadn't been social with boys. She was quiet, often reading books, drawing, or wandering the garden. Her father patted her head and said, "Well, just make sure he's a nice boy, all right." Maya smiled, but there was something mysterious in her expression. "He's very kind, Dad. But you wouldn't see him." Days went by, and Maya often disappeared from the house, only to return with a strange glow on her face. She would tell her mother stories about Liam, how they would meet by the trees at night, how he whispered stories to her under the moonlight, and how he promised her they would be together forever. Her mother, thinking Maya was just creating an imaginary friend, would nod along, amused. But things started to change. Maya began waking up with marks on her arms, almost like faint scratches. When her mother asked her about them, she just laughed, saying, "Liam loves me very much. Sometimes he holds me too tight." Her mother started to worry, but her father brushed it off. "Teenagers go through strange phases. She'll be fine," he reassured her. One night, however, something even stranger happened. Maya's mother went to check on her in her room, but Maya was gone. Frantically, she woke up her husband, and together they searched the house. Finally, they found her outside in the garden, staring at the moon. When her parents called out to her, she turned, her eyes blank, as if she didn't recognize them. "Maya," her mother cried, running to her. "Are you all right?" Maya's expression softened. She blinked a few times, looking confused. "Oh, I was with Liam," she whispered, then fainted in her mother's arms. After that night, her parents decided to keep a close eye on her. They couldn't deny that something strange was happening. Maya would laugh and dance by herself, and sometimes her mother could hear her talking softly, as if someone were standing right beside her. And then came the day that shocked them all. One morning, Maya sat at the breakfast table, looking pale but with a faint smile. She looked at her parents and took a deep breath before saying, "Mom, Dad, I have something to tell you." They looked at her, sensing the seriousness in her tone. I'm going to have a baby." Her mother's eyes widened in shock, and her father dropped his cup. They were speechless. "Maya, what are you talking about?" her mother stammered. You don't even know any boys." Maya looked down, her face full of emotions: fear, sadness, and love. "I know you don't believe me, but Liam, he's real. He's the one who loves me, and he's the father." Her parents were stunned. This was not possible. How could Maya be pregnant and with a ghost? As the days passed, Maya's belly began to grow, and the atmosphere in the house grew thick with tension and fear. Her parents whispered to each other at night, wondering if their daughter was truly haunted, or if she was losing her mind. They didn't know where to turn for help. One evening, Maya's father went to the local library, hoping to find some information on spirits and hauntings. There, he met an old woman, a town elder, who listened as he shared his story. The old woman's face grew serious, and she whispered, "There are things beyond this world that cannot be explained. Some spirits become attached to the living, seeking love and warmth they could never have in life. But such love can turn dark." With a heavy heart, he returned home, feeling the weight of his daughter's strange destiny pressing down on him. And as Maya's belly grew, so did the strange things happening in their house. Windows opened by themselves. The sound of whispers filled the rooms, and shadows flitted across walls. Her parents knew they had to do something, but was it already too late? As the days went on, Maya's condition became more unsettling. Her cheeks grew pale, and dark circles formed under her eyes, but there was a strange, almost unnatural glow about her. She spoke less, spending hours staring out the window, sometimes whispering softly to herself, or maybe to someone else. Her parents didn't know what to do. They kept trying to convince themselves that Maya was imagining things, that perhaps she had dreamed this whole relationship with Liam, or worse, fallen into a kind of madness. But every time they saw her belly growing, every time they heard her whispering to the air, doubt grew inside them. One evening, her father couldn't bear it any longer. After everyone had gone to bed, he quietly left the house and went back to see the old woman he'd met at the library. He found her at her small cottage, sitting by the fire, almost as if she had been waiting for him. When he entered, she looked at him with eyes that seemed to know more than she was telling. "You're back," she said softly, as if she had been expecting him. "It's about the spirit, isn't it?" He nodded, feeling the weight of fear and confusion pressing down on him. "Please, I need to understand what's happening to my daughter. She says she's carrying the child of this spirit. But how can this be? Is she possessed? Cursed?" The old woman sighed, as if gathering her thoughts. She stirred the fire with a long stick, her gaze distant. "Some spirits walk this earth with unfinished business," she explained. "Some are here because they seek revenge. Others, because they seek love they never had in life. It sounds as if your daughter has somehow crossed paths with a lost spirit, one with a strong desire that binds him to our world." The father shivered, suddenly remembering the way Maya sometimes stared into the shadows, as if she saw something he couldn't. "What do I do?" he asked, desperation in his voice. The old woman placed a wrinkled hand on his arm. "You must confront this spirit. It won't be easy. Such spirits often grow stronger as they feed on the love or fear of the living. If your daughter truly believes in this spirit's love, then it may be too late." With a heavy heart, Maya's father returned home. He didn't know what to believe anymore. Could it be possible that some force beyond his understanding was at work here? Or was his daughter's mind slipping away into darkness? Days passed, and Maya grew weaker, though her belly continued to swell. One night, Maya's mother finally gathered the courage to sit beside her daughter, hoping to reach her, to understand what was truly going on. "Maya," she said gently, "I need you to tell me about Liam. Who is he? Why do you love him so much?" Maya looked up, her tired eyes filling with tears. "He loves me, Mom. He comes to me at night. He whispers to me, telling me that he'll always protect me. He's my only friend." Her mother's heart broke at the sadness in Maya's voice. "But Maya," she whispered, "we can't see him. Are you sure he's real? What if he's only in your imagination?" Maya shook her head firmly. "I know he's real, Mom. He touched me. He made me feel loved, safe. And now I'm carrying his child. You can't take that away from me." A chill ran down her mother's spine. She wanted to believe her daughter, but how could she? How could this be true? One night, Maya's parents decided they couldn't stay quiet anymore. They invited a local priest to their home, hoping that perhaps a blessing or prayer could drive away whatever was haunting their daughter. The priest was an elderly man with a wise, kind face, and he listened carefully as they explained the strange events surrounding Maya. The priest nodded gravely, understanding the seriousness of the situation. Some spirits cling to this world, unable to let go. Sometimes it is love that binds them here. But love from a spirit is not the same as love from a living person. Such love is dangerous. It drains life, taking rather than giving. They invited Maya to join them in the living room, where the priest began to recite prayers and sprinkle holy water. But as he spoke, something strange happened. Maya's eyes turned dark, her face expressionless. She began to speak, her voice not quite her own. "Stop this," she said, her voice deep and cold. "You cannot take her from me. She is mine." The priest took a step back, horrified. Her parents stared, fear freezing them in place. This wasn't Maya's voice, it was something else, something that felt dark and ancient. The priest quickly composed himself and continued his prayers, louder this time, determined to rid their home of whatever spirit had attached itself to Maya. But Maya's expression only grew colder. Suddenly, she screamed, clutching her belly, her face twisted in pain. "Leave us alone," she cried out. "He's hurting me. He doesn't want you here." Her parents rushed to her side, holding her as she trembled, but they felt a strange, icy coldness in the air. It was as if an unseen presence had filled the room, angry and unwilling to leave. The priest tried to continue, but his face was pale, his voice wavering. He could feel the spirit's anger, its possessiveness over Maya. It was clear that whatever was haunting her was no ordinary spirit. It was powerful, filled with a fierce and dangerous love. The priest whispered to her parents, "You need to find out who this spirit is. Sometimes when a spirit grows attached, it's because of a deep, unfulfilled need. If you can uncover its identity, perhaps you can help it let go." With heavy hearts, Maya's parents began searching through old town records, hoping to find any mention of someone named Liam. They looked through old newspapers, stories about the woods, anything that might give them a clue. And finally, they found it. Nearly a century ago, a young man named Liam had lived near their town. He was said to have been in love with a girl from a wealthy family. But the girl's family had forbidden the relationship, and Liam, heartbroken and desperate, had disappeared into the woods, never to be seen again. The townspeople whispered that he had taken his own life, wandering the forest until he was lost forever. Some said his spirit remained, searching for the love he had been denied, waiting for someone who would see him, love him, and let him in. Realizing the truth, Maya's parents felt a sense of dread. This spirit, this lost soul, had found their daughter, and now it wasn't going to let her go. They knew they had to act quickly. Realizing the grave danger Maya was in, her parents knew they needed to take immediate action. They returned to the priest, desperate for guidance. The priest, shaken by what he had witnessed, hesitated but finally offered a plan. "There is a way," he said, "to release this spirit, but it will not be easy. The spirit must be guided to the other side by the one who drew it here. That person is Maya." Maya's parents were horrified. How could they ask Maya to confront a spirit so powerful and attached? Yet they had no other choice. That night, they brought Maya to the edge of the forest. They explained to her, gently, the truth about Liam. He was a spirit of a young man who had lost everything a spirit, clinging to the memory of love. Her parents begged her to set him free. Maya listened quietly, her face pale in the moonlight. She looked at the trees, the shadows deep and thick around her. "Liam was never real," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Her mother held her close. "He was real once. But he's not from our world anymore, Maya. You have to let him go." Maya nodded, though her heart felt heavy. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Liam, if you can hear me, please come to me one last time." The air grew cold, and a thick fog rose from the forest floor. Slowly, a faint shape appeared in the shadows, a young man, his face sad yet peaceful, his gaze filled with longing as he looked at Maya. "Maya," he said, his voice like a distant echo, "you promised to love me." Maya felt a surge of emotion, a strange mix of fear and sadness. "I did love you, Liam," she said, her voice trembling. "But you're not meant to stay here. You don't belong in this world anymore." Liam's face twisted in sorrow. "But I've waited so long. I was lonely. I thought you'd stay with me." Maya's heart ached, but she took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Liam, you deserve peace. You deserve to be free from this loneliness. Please, let go. Set us both free." The spirit's form wavered, as if torn between love and release. But finally, he reached out one last time, his ghostly hand brushing her cheek. She felt a chill run through her, and then warmth, as if he was giving her a final gift of love. "Thank you," Liam whispered, his voice barely a breeze. And then he began to fade, his form dissolving into the mist, drifting away into the night. As he disappeared, Maya felt a lightness fill her heart. The coldness she'd felt for months melted away, leaving her with only a quiet peace. Her parents wrapped her in their arms, relief flooding their faces. After that night, Maya's strange symptoms faded. The marks on her skin disappeared, and her belly returned to normal. Liam's presence was gone, his spirit finally finding the peace he had sought for so long. In the days that followed, Maya grew stronger. She remembered Liam with a sad, fond feeling, but she knew he was where he needed to be. Her parents were grateful, too, and they moved away from the house by the forest, leaving the shadows and memories behind. Years later, Maya would sometimes think of that strange time in her life, of the love she had shared with a spirit from another world. And she would smile, feeling that, in some way, Liam had finally found happiness and had taught her something precious about love, life, and letting go.